Part 3 of the Zondo report on state capture has recommended further investigations as there are reasonable prospects to uncover evidence of corruption for implicated politicians, public officials and representatives of organs of state. Now, these include former President Jacob Zuma, Gwede Mantashe, Nomvula Mokonyane and Cedrick Frolick. The report, which focused on Bosasa, found that the company, which later became known as African Global Operations, used Front to get kickbacks in exchange for lucrative government contracts. Meanwhile, Gwede Mantashe, in his media briefing yesterday, said the report found no prima facie evidence or a case against him, but is creating facts out of assumptions. Therefore, he will take that report on a judicial review. UKZN lecturer in public policy and political science, Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, joins us now to talk about this. So nice to have you. Welcome to the program, Dr. Vilakazi.
Good morning, Leanne. I couldn't hear much of what you were saying. Good morning to the listeners.
No
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope that the sound is fine on your side and you're able to hear me. But I was just basically introducing the conversation and yourself. And now to ask you my first question. Most of the outcomes are issues that were discussed at length during the sitting of the Commission. Any surprises for you or new information that you've seen come out of it?
To be honest with you, Gwede Mantashe is quite a surprise. It's really not surprising to see Minister Nomvula Mokonyane in that list. It's not surprising to see many of the names that I mentioned, but to see the Minister of Minerals and Resource and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, was a surprise. It's something that was not expected, particularly because he has really not been seen as someone that is aligned to the faction within the ANC that sort of seems to be drawn into the scandals of corruption, which is the radical and economic transformation faction. So it's quite shocking. It's quite shocking for me, yeah.
Seeing him as they quote, a brilliant connection is the words that we use.
Absolutely, to the president,
yeah, and that's quite a scathing remark. However, during a press briefing yesterday and talking to the media, Gwede Mantashe basically saying that there's no prima facie case against him, and this is all based on assumptions. So he'll take it on review, but talk to me about that.
Leanne, I think that if you look at the Constitution, I mean, it does have rights to be able to take the outcomes of the Commission to review. But there are political risks for the African National Congress, but also for governance in the country, because we are a country that is already sort of, if you look at it politically speaking, a failing state. There are a number of eyes that are looking at us as South Africa in terms of the latest developments, particularly in the local government elections and the role of the ruling party. My view is that if he then challenges the outcomes of the Zondo Commission, and as far as it implicates him, it may compromise the African National Congress as we move towards the national government elections in 2024. And this is happening at the time when the ANC is looking at having its conference and looking at leadership, and trying very, very hard under the leadership of President Cedrick Ramaphosa to sort of renew leadership, to renew trust of citizens. And I think that he may be really leaning towards a risky route here if he challenges this process through a judicial review.
Yeah, I mean, when you read the bottom line was that he did have security upgrades done at the behest of the then CEO of Bosasa, and this was at 3 different properties. When asked about this, Gwede Mantashe at the time had said this was absolutely innocent, and the fact that this was done and authorized by a Bosasa CEO was absolutely irrelevant, and it didn't mean anything. But I mean, at the time, surely you're blurring lines here. This is something that is worrying.
Absolutely, Leanne. Section 96 of the Constitution of South Africa states it clearly, and I'm just going to paraphrase it here, that if you hold office like Minister Mantashe is doing and many others that are implicated, you shouldn't find yourself in compromising situations that could sway towards a possible conflict of interest. And when those upgrades were done in all of his properties, clearly, as an office bearer, he should have known. He should have known that you cannot do a thing like that, particularly with a company like Bosasa that already has been implicated in a number of corruption deals. All the tenders, if not most of them, that Bosasa had are tenders, as of course agrees his testimony, tenders that are contracts that have been found through corruption. So he should have known. Yeah. He should have known that he cannot do that. He's compromising Section 96 of the Constitution and is compromising the political party that he belongs to, which is a leading party in the country, and is compromising governance. Yeah. So he should have known better.
Indeed. And I mean, when we look at sort of the information that the company bribed politicians, it bribed government officials, at the time a sitting president and others extensively. I mean, this is what some of the findings are. That's not only the case of Bosasa, but it seems to have been a common thread in the ANC politics, including the Gupta revelations and the erosion of state-owned enterprises. All this mainly points to the ANC wielding power as a ruling party and its cadre deployment. What complications has this relationship of party and state brought South Africa?
Major complications, Leanne. It has compromised our systems of governance. It has compromised, above all, trust of citizens. When you are running a country that is led using a democratic form of governance, one of the major things that you do not want to compromise is the trust of citizens. We come from an apartheid era as South Africa. When we started in 1994, we were sort of a united force because of the liberation struggle culture. And the South African democratic government then had a lot of trust from South African citizens, particularly the majority of citizens in the country. And over the years, that trust has been eroded, right? South Africa could easily trust government, no matter what government did. For the first 10 years of democracy, we could start seeing signs of compromising state resources and abuses of power, And we still voted. We still voted the African National Congress. The majority of citizens in the country still voted the African National Congress for whatever the reasons. But the local government elections of 2021 have shown us that South Africans are tired. You can't compromise trust. So that is one of the complications that we have in our democracy, that trust has been eroded, and the renewal project of the African National Congress or any other coalition government that will probably come up in 2024 would then need to do the work of cleaning up and rebuilding of trust, rebuilding of communities and what you call organs of a democratic state, and that is what the ANC has compromised. And unfortunately, if you look at the local government elections, I do not think that 2024 will look better even for them. I think it will look worse.
So part of the findings are that there's a prima facie evidence of corruption that has been established against former Bosasa directors, that's Papale Shabane and Joe Gumede, with regards to the ANC War Room donation in 2014. How have these allegations of corruption against certain companies and the ANC as a ruling party that deploys its cadres to government institutions impacted governance and, of course, the weakening of the country's institutions?
Leanne, I mean, the report actually reveals that most of the campaigns of the ANC were funded by Bosasa, like you are saying, and the war room circumstances as well. It is problematic, and also the fact that the president himself, the election of President which is what we know as the CR17, was also founded by Bosasa, so compromising governance in a sense that South Africa is a country that is is led by the African National Congress, which happens to also be a government of the day. So now when there are these kinds of allegations and corruptions, the lines between the ruling party's operations and that of the state become blurry, right? One then begins to compromise the constitution itself, to compromise citizens' power, but also to compromise the taxation, the tax base of the country, because the money that we are using in government and some of the money that also is used on tenders is taxpayers' money. Mm-hmm. So what that does then, you are also creating a culture where some of the citizens would say, I will not actually pay my tax if my tax is being used in this way. And we have a right to say so, because we contribute to the tax base for the uplifting of this democracy, for the uplifting of this society. But if you see on a daily basis through governments, right, through structures of governance within the presidency, within various ministries of South Africa, this resource being eroded in the manner that it is, being misused in the manner that it is, it does also make citizens to sort of take a lazy walk towards taxation, which is dangerous, of course, because it means then that basic services will be compromised. We are going to continue seeing citizens and communities not getting water, sanitation, health, basic needs that we need, even food. South Africa is leaning towards starvation and hunger and destitution because of the situation. Thank goodness for the relief grant. But those kinds of things then are risky stances of governance, where we are going to now rely on making sure that people get the 350 so that they can vote. I can tell you now, Leanne, I could be wrong, but let's look at 2024. The basic income grant is probably going to be announced just before the 2024 elections, so that the majority of South Africans who are unemployed, who are hungry, who are starving as we speak, will then be able to vote for the ANC and say, because they are giving us grants. And that has been a ticket all along. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that when people who are in positions of power, like the two CEOs in Bosasa, who had very, very strong relationships with politicians within the ANC, and then seem to be doing these kinds of scandals, it compromises even our relationship with business, right? In the State of the Nation address recently, the president in the last couple of days mentioned a shocking statement that says business creates jobs, not government. Fair enough. Business has got a role that it plays. But what that also says is that the African National Congress is not really learning from the mistakes that have been done through the relationship with business. That is seen as a creation of employment in terms of corruption and so on. Why is it that the president and the ruling party is not saying, let us change this, because business is actually, we have corrupt corporates in the country, a corporate that would buy deals and contracts through corruption. So why don't we create jobs as a state? Why is it that the African National Congress is not revising its policies to say, yes, most of the jobs of South Africans, maybe 80% come from corporate, and corporate has been implicated. Corporates like Bosasa have been implicated in very, very painful, corrupt deals. Can we change the tide? Can we turn the tables down? But the president did not do that. No. Instead, he was clapping hands.
Indeed. And this is where we worry. We do worry. But if I may ask you, Fikile, I mean, what is wrong with South Africans? I ask this question because, we look back and nothing seems to change. The vote keeps on going in the favor. I mean, do we as a nation have agency? Are we doing enough to demand good governance, to demand the respect of the rule of law and public office from those positions of power? We know what's going on. We're seeing what's going on. In fact, you and I paid R1 billion for this commission. That's how much we paid for this commission to give us this information. And yet those implicated people still sit in office, pull press conferences and say, well, they got no evidence. We're just going to take this on review. So it actually means nothing at the end of the day. What's wrong with us?
It's absolutely crazy. Minister Mantashe was saying, I think maybe yesterday, was even saying, let us allow him as South Africans to do this judicial review. And whilst he do that, can we please make sure that he keeps his position within the African National Congress, also as within government? That is absolutely insane, because you're basically saying, let citizens continue to pay for your salary. whilst you are actually being implicated for corruption. And that is something that we need to ask ourselves, as you are saying in the end. What are we doing then as a citizenry? I'm very, very happy about the recent developments in terms of the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act is under review. I'm not sure whether Parliament has passed it already. The review is supposed to have done it. I think they've missed the time last year, June. But anyway, that Electoral Act review process empowers citizens to say, come 2024, in South Africa, we all should be able to stand for electoral office, even if we don't belong to a political party. In essence, that system then changes the electoral system as it stands, which then says, South African citizens, take your power back. We have agency. We can see situations where non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, community forums can come and actually lead South Africa. We are probably over time going to see a situation where the president of the country is not even going to come from a ruling party. We may not even have a ruling party anymore, I suspect. We're probably going to be govern ourselves through coalitions. Let us take that space as South Africans. Let civil society organizations who are in any case running this country, and this country is run by NGOs. Who is feeding citizens that are hungry? It is NGOs. Who is taking care of the sick in hospices? It is non-governmental organizations. It is ordinary citizens on the streets of South Africa who are doing this. Why is it that when it comes to occupying political office, then we give it to the elites? Yeah, so it's that kind of thing that we need to then take back that agency. And it is happening, but I think because of the culture of corruption that is embedded, even the most trustworthy citizens, even the most morally sensible citizens get to be bribed along the way to say, I can build a house for you, I'll put a security system for you, and so on, and then you can shut up, or I'll give you a contract in Dubai, and so on. So that is what is happening, and I think we need to then revisit the moral fiber of our society. We need to go back to our values of Ubuntu, to say, who are we as South Africa? What have we lost? What has gone wrong? How did we get here? We need that exercise. We always say in feminist, because I come from feminist spaces, where we are demanding a feminist-led government, a government that is led from a place of healing and morality, to say, let us revisit the kinds of things that we were fighting for during the liberation struggle. Let us remember that, because we were there. Right? Something has been lost. Just lost. We understand that in the last 20 years or so, more than 20 years, we've lost it, but we can claim it back through agency, like you are saying. Let us revitalize our CSOs. And I think that civil society organizations do not know that we actually do have this power to be able to lead this country.
Well, listen, I leave it on that note. I don't think I can add more to what you've been saying. Thank you. Thanks very, very much for your time. UKZN lecturer in public policy and political science, Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, discussing the recommendations of Part 3 of the State Capture Report, which recommends further investigations and potential prosecutions of implicated politicians, the national executive, public officials and representatives of organs of state, but more importantly asking, where did South Africa lose its direction? All right.